Good morning, dear students. Today we'll talk about types of survey research. But how can we do survey research basically? For that, we should have a look at it once again, what exactly survey is. Survey is basically a research technique in which information is gathered from a sample of people by use of questionnaire or interview. Or you can say that surveyor asks a respondent for information using verbal or written questioning. That is basically a survey. If you notice that some kind of communication is needed in survey. So media for data collection are tool for gathering information using verbal or written questioning. Again, we are talking about questions and the answers. Tools are either human interactive media, human will be interacting with people, with respondents, or electronic interactive media through internet, through electronic mediums, or non-interactive media in which no human is interacting. Basically, you will be providing them questionnaire through some means and they will be answering them and returning it back. Basically, there would be no communication between them through verbal media. But if you see that some communication is needed either through papers or through verbal communication. So for that, there is a medium, self-administered questionnaire. If you are interacting with the respondents through human interactive media, you can even avoid a questionnaire. You can just simply ask questions and they'll be answering. But when electronic interactive media is involved, or maybe some non-interactive media is there, then you will definitely have to involve something, or that something is basically a self-administered questionnaire. When we say that we are going to involve a self-administered questionnaire, that can be used even while going for human interactive media as well, for going for electronic media as well, and then in case of non-interactive media as well. So we will be discussing what a self-administered questionnaire is and how it can be used in both paper questionnaires as well as electronic questionnaires. Self-administered questionnaire basically is a form of is a kind of paper, or say it's a set of questions that is filled in by the respondent rather than by an interviewer. Generally, it is used in those communications when interviewer is not filling the answers, but respondent would be filling all the answers. It can collect data with the help of either paper questionnaires. You can take the print of questionnaires, all the questions, and in which you have left the space for answers, or you have provided some close-ended answers like yes, no, or maybe some categories. The respondent has just to fill it with the tick marks, right? Or electronic questionnaires are also there. You can mail the questionnaire to respondents and they can just tick their answers, or they can fill in their answers and respond it back to you. When it comes to paper questionnaires, you can mail the questionnaires to them. You can write their address on the questionnaire and send them through mail, through the post office, you can say, or you can drop off that particular questionnaire in person. You can go door to door and drop off the questionnaires and ask them to fill them, and you'll be collecting them later on. You can fax them up, you can insert them up, right? But when it comes to electronic questionnaires, you can email the questionnaire, providing them the space for answering it, or you can put the questionnaires on internet through the websites, they can fill it up, or you can put the questionnaires through kiosk as well. These are the basically the modes through which you can get your self-administered questionnaire filled up. Or one way is to interview them. That can happen with or without the help of questionnaire. You can have a questionnaire with you and you can just ask respondents about the questions, and they'll be answering it. You'll be filling it by yourself. Or you can have just a list of questions, you will answer accordingly. So let us revise it till now so as to make some understanding about self-administered questionnaire as well as the media of data collection. We are talking about surveys. Surveys can happen with the help of human interactive media, electronic media, and non-interactive media as well. Human interactive media involves human interaction. That means both the sides would be interacting with each other, interviewer as well as respondent. That is basically through interviews. Generally, we call this process as interview when both the humans are interacting with each other. That can happen with or without the help of self-administered questionnaire. Or electronic interactive media. This is generally happening with the help of self-administered questionnaire, either through mails or through telephones. Then non-interactive media, it is actually with the help of self-administered questionnaire only. These three are basic medias used for data collection when we talk about surveys. Self-administered questionnaire is needed in almost all the kind of surveys. If there are if you have self-administered questionnaire with you, then you can easily conduct survey even if it was not needed. In case of human interactive media, we can say that we don't need a questionnaire as such, but if it is in our hand, the communication process becomes easy because you know all the questions and you know how to pick the answers when respondent is answering the questions. So it's always good if you have a questionnaire with you. Basic form to collect survey and most popular form you can say to collect survey is interview. That can happen either face to face, you are communicating with the respondent directly, and that can be divided in two parts. Either door to door, you can go to every door of the samples and collect the data, or mole intercept. That this is also a very good idea. These days it is happening the most, you can say. Mall intercept basically is you can choose a location, you can choose a shopping mall, and there you can decide that every person coming in would be answering to such and such questions. That can also categorized as personal interview. Or telephonically. Telephonically means you will be asking the same set of questions through telephone. That's it. Nothing is changed in this. Or through internet or through mails, you can say. Through internet also, you can ask the same set of questions. Through internet, it can happen like you can mail the questionnaire to the respondent, or you can put that on some website, or you can, these days, you can video call them. That can also be counted as through internet these days. Right? There are so many options available when it comes to through internet. We will discuss it in detail. We can call this particular thing, this interview, as in different way. Like while communicating with respondents, you can call it as personal interview when we talk about door-to-door or mall intercept options. Or telephonic interviews, this is also kind of communication. Or internet surveys, or this is generally happening with the help of email surveys. You will be, most of the times you will be mailing the surveys to respondents. You can either mail the whole questionnaire to them, they can take a print and fill it back and give the response to you, or you can put it on your website, or you can put it in the form of Excel sheets and then mail it to them. Basically, you will be emailing the thing, emailing the questionnaire. So that is why we call them as email surveys. And this all is happening with the help of self-administered questionnaires. Basically, communication with respondent is happening in one or the other way, either through personal interviews, which we are calling as face-to-face communication, or telephonic interviews, or internet surveys, or we can even call them as email surveys. Number one, we'll discuss them, that what they are actually one by one. Number one, personal interviews. What do you mean by a personal interview? Generally, one person is asking questions and another one is responding. When we go for a job selection, we go for interviews, we call them as personal interviews while going for a job, right? This is almost the same way. The only thing is, when we go for a job and attend an interview, at that time it is like, it depends on our interview whether we'll be getting a job or not. But in this case, you will be sharing your ideas freely. As respondent, you will be just giving answers very well, very freely. You don't have any tension of getting the job or not, right? So this is little different, and you can be relaxed here. Here, when we talk about job interviews, the interviewer is relaxed, and the person who is responding to the questions is little nervous, or say in tension whether he'll be getting the job or not. But when it comes to surveys, in case of personal interviews, the interviewer should be in tension, because he knows that he has to collect all the answers. He has this thing in mind, whether the respondent would be answering to all the questions or not. So personal interview basically it is a form of direct communication in which the interviewer and respondent are face-to-face situation. These are of two kinds I already discussed. One is door-to-door. You will be going to every door and ask them the same set of questions with the help of that questionnaire you have designed. Or you can have a situation, have some system set in some malls, shopping malls, and you can ask almost every person, or you can decide every second person coming to the mall would be answering, or you can decide after every 10 minutes, because you will be conducting interviews as well. Suppose some person has entered shopping mall right now, and you are just interviewing the person. Of course, it will take you some minutes, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, depending on the questionnaire you have, depending on the set of questions you have to ask, right? After that, you can even decide, as soon as your interview finishes, you will be interviewing the next person coming to the shopping mall. There might be 1,000 people coming to the shopping mall daily, but you will not be able to interview all 1,000 people, because you have limited time with you. Suppose you will be interviewing people from 10 a.m. in the morning till 10 p.m. in the evening, or say night. You will be having 12 hours to communicate with respondents, right? In those 12 hours, you might not be able to conduct 1,000 interviews, but you know that you can conduct 100 interviews. So you can choose either to conduct interview with every 10th person coming to the shopping mall, or you can decide that, yes, I am just starting with the interview with this person. As soon as this interview finishes, whoever the person comes, I will conduct the second interview with that person. In that, maybe you might take 10 minutes to finish that particular interview, or you might take 20 minutes. In that 10 or 20 minutes, there might be 100 people coming to the shopping mall. But if you are conducting interview, you cannot ask them to wait for you. So you can decide, as soon as you finish the first interview, you will conduct the second one. As soon as you finish the second one, you can start conducting the third one. You can start looking for people for third interview. Like this, you can decide in shopping malls. But when it comes to door-to-door interview, again, you can just go to every door you have decided as your sample and start the interview. Personal interviews generally provides you some things like opportunity for feedback. Yes, you can always provide feedback about the interview, and you can get the feedback for your interview. Maybe some person who is responding to the questions might give you some good suggestions about the questionnaire as well. You can always ask them about your set of questions, whether they were useful or not, to know about the complete information. Or sometimes when you actually conduct interviews, you come to know about certain things, certain questions, which you could actually include in your questionnaire. You can add them and those questions as well. So that is a kind of feedback. Or probing complex questions. Sometimes you have some complex questions in your questionnaire. Sometimes you can probe them. Like you can do one thing, that you are not asking those questions directly, but coming to those questions indirectly, then you can get answers for them. Or longer length of questionnaires. Sometimes if your questionnaire is longer than usual, then you can, you can add some activities, some normal, some kind of questions which might interest respondent to answer the whole questionnaire, which those questions might not be a part of your questionnaire, but you can just ask them so as to indirectly put their interest, keep their interest in answering you, right? So that is also done at the at the time of personal interview, so it is actually an advantage for you. Complete questionnaire. Yes, most advantages is this, that in case of personal interviews, you will definitely complete the questionnaires. You can avoid item non response. There would be no question which is left behind in most of the cases. At least in 99% cases, you can do that. Or you can at least, suppose you have 100 questions in your questionnaire, and you have the person has responded to 97, 98 questions in that, and 2 questions are left. Those 2 can generally be filled up with the help of the other answers. You can do that because you have actually interacted with the person. Now you know what would be the answers for those two questions if they are left. Then some props and visual ads. You can actually show them some visual aids so as to connect them to the interview properly. Or high participation. Yes, this actually provides high participation, especially in case of mall intercept. You can actually show them some videos. You can put a banner where you are conducting interviews so as to lure them. You can keep some gifts for every participant or every respondent. This can also help. Those gifts are not needed to be very costly, but still it might help you in getting all the answers. So these are some basic features of personal interviews, or you can even call them as advantages of personal interview. You can always start with some good statements. For example, good afternoon, my name is Dr. Priyanka. I am with CSR Survey Research Company. We are conducting the survey on how you take CSRs, or why do you purchase product from so-and-so brand, or something like that. You do not specifically have to start with the name of company. You can start with your name only. These are 3 statements. You can start with just 1 statement, or combination of 2 statements, or all 3 statements. This can give you a very good start, and you can start sharing with your experiences so as to get some answers out of them. Then telephone surveys. Set of questions over here is same, but the only difference is you will be asking the questions now with over the telephone. Telephone surveys basically are contacting respondents by telephone to get the responses to survey questions. Again, the questions are same. You can have the same questionnaire with you, but you will be asking those questions over the telephone now. Some features of telephone surveys are, this is actually speedy. You can collect data immediately. You do not have to go to some other place, so it is little less costly as well. Your transportation cost can be saved. When it comes to cost part, earlier it might be costly rather than personal interviews, but these days telephonic surveys are least costly than other forms of interviews. Then absence of face-to-face contact. Though it is disadvantageous sometimes that face-to-face contact is absent there, but sometimes some people are like, they feel good to respond on telephone rather than personally. They feel like that they are being judged or something. They feel free to answer over telephone rather than on personal interviews. So it is a good thing. People cooperate more than in face-to-face surveys over telephone. Callbacks can also be done. Suppose while conducting a personal interview, you went to people's door and they were not available. right? Going back to the same house again might be difficult for you. It might include more transportation charges, and sometimes we forget that whether we have gone to this house or not sometimes, right? But in case of telephone service, you can take a list and you can just check or cross check it whether you have whether they have been interviewed or not. You can actually go for callbacks. This is easier than personal interviews in that case. And you can actually go for some representative sample. In case of telephone surveys, you can just pick the directory and go for random digit dialing as well. Then third is mail surveys. Mail surveys can be done through either you can actually send the questionnaire to them through post or something. You can mail them the questionnaires and they can respond back. This is something you do not have to contact them in this. In personal interview, you were contacting them personally. In telephonic interview, you were calling them and contacting them. You were with them basically over the phone. But in case of mail surveys, you are just sending them the questionnaire and nothing else is happening. You are just asking them to respond over mail. Then internet surveys. This is a form of survey. This is basically a self-administered questionnaire posted on a website, or it might be self-administered questionnaire to be sent to them through the email. Or in this, respondents provide answers to questions displayed online by highlighting a phrase or clicking an icon or keying in an answer. Basically, this is the most widely used survey these days. Internet surveys also provide good representative samples, better than personal interview and telephonic interviews these days, especially. The quality of internet samples may vary substantially. Sometimes you get good samples, sometimes you might not get good samples. This can happen. Sample of those who visit a website and voluntarily fill out a questionnaire can have self-selection error. Yes, this is possible in case of internet surveys, because those who are using internet would be replying you. Those who are using internet little less will not be able to reply you. So your population either should be the one who is actually using internet, or you will have to divide your sample in two parts and then go for surveys. One is those who are actually using internet, one is those who are not using internet. You will have to conduct survey in two parts in that case, one through internet surveys and another through maybe personal or telephonic interviews. Actual real-time data, you really get real-time data in case of internet surveys. Callbacks are not needed here, and sometimes even if callbacks are needed, it is easier than any other method. Some disadvantages are, some security concerns are there, especially for elderly people, or for those who are little less comfortable with internet surveys. But when we talk about surveys, there is no best form of survey. Each has advantages and disadvantages. Personal interview, telephonic interview, as well as internet surveys, all has some advantages and some disadvantages. So we need to discuss them in detail. We'll be discussing in upcoming 3 videos about these 3 things: personal interviews, telephonic interviews, and your internet surveys, regarding their advantages and disadvantages. But still we have an idea, because we have discussed them, what personal interviews are, what are their features, what telephonic interviews are and what are their features, what email interviews are or internet surveys are and what are their features. So we know now at least something about them. So now it is dependent on objectives of surveys, that how would you conduct the survey. If you are going to launch a new product, what will you do? You can go to shopping mall and ask people about that, right? This is the best way of survey in that case, when you are to launch a new product. But when this is a routine process of survey, then you can go for personal interviews as well, or you can even go through telephonic interviews, and you can even go through internet surveys. Internet surveys and telephonic interviews are the best thing in this case. But if your business is not doing well and you have to conduct a survey, what should you do? You can even go door to door in case of retailers and wholesalers. When we talk about personal interviews, we generally say that we are going to door and asking people about the questions, right? When your business is not doing well, in that case, door to door might involve going to every retailer you have, because you cannot go to every person in the locality, but you can actually go to every retailer to know about the problem, that why people are not buying your product, right? They can give you some hints, they can tell you that these were the people who were buying the product but they are not buying it. Then you can go for door to door personal interviews to actual consumers. So it depends what kind of the objective your survey has. Accordingly, you can decide. In case of launching a new product, you can go to the shopping mall and conduct a mall intercept survey. In case of routine process, you can either go through internet surveys or telephonic surveys. Personal interviews are not actually needed here. But if your business is not doing well, then you really need personal interviews, and that too door to door interviews. So it depends what kind of objectives your survey has, and accordingly you will be deciding which kind of the survey is to be conducted in this case, right? Some advantages of surveys are these are relatively inexpensive, flexible, and extremely valuable. That is why we are conducting surveys rather than secondary data. This is always to be reminded, so as to collect the data positively and correctly. How can you decide about advantages of survey? That might depend on some questions. This is actually the thing which will decide that what kind of the survey you are going to do, these objectives. But you can still have a list of questions which might answer you about the surveys. Some other things are also there along with the objective of survey. And these are, is the assistance of an interviewer necessary or not? If you are going to conduct a personal interview, then you need to decide whether you will be needing an assistant or not. That also decides whether you will be going for personal interview or not. Are respondents interested in the issues being investigated or not? In that case also, you need to be very careful. Sometimes if you feel like that respondents are not interested in the issue being investigated, then you can conduct the interview through email survey, internet surveys as well, keeping their identity confidential. You can just do one thing. You are not, you will not be asking them their names, their phone numbers, their email IDs. You can just ask them to respond, right? That can also be done in case if the respondents are not interested in answering you. Will cooperation be easily attained or not? That also depends about the that also depends whether they'll be cooperating with you or not. It depends on the issue you are investigating, or how quickly is the information needed. If you need a quick information, then you can actually conduct personal interviews, because they'll be giving you more quick information. Or you can conduct telephonic interviews, they can also give you quick information. But in case of internet survey, you don't know when the person would be, opening the mail, when they'll be able to answer you. So when information needed is quick, either you have to ask the other person again and again to fill the internet survey, or you will be going for personal or telephonic interview. Will the study require a long and complex questionnaire? If it is so, then you will have to go for personal interviews, because you can actually learn them through some gifts or something, some other conversation as well. Otherwise, they'll not be able to fill the long and complex questionnaire. Over internet, you cannot expect them to fill the whole questionnaire. How large is the budget? Yes, budget is the main thing here, whether you'll be able to handle all the expenses of personal interviews or telephonic interviews. That is also to be decided here, so as to know whether what kind of the survey you are going to conduct, because every survey involves some costing, whether it is personal interview or it is telephonic interview or it is mail survey, internet survey. So depending on your budget is also one thing. In the last, if you don't know, you are not able to decide even after everything, then you can go for pre-testing. Suppose you have to conduct, what pre-testing is, a trial run with a group of respondents to iron out fundamental problems in the instructions of survey design. Basically, it is a kind of survey on a small scale. If you know that you have to conduct a survey with 1 lakh people, 1 lakh is the sample size, then you can go and conduct a pre-testing, a small survey with almost 100 people, you can say, and you can see what was the result of personal interview, or telephonic interview or internet survey. Then you can decide which one to conduct, because you can divide the survey in 3 parts. You can conduct 30 personal interviews, 30 telephone interviews, 30 internet survey interviews, or 30 you can complete 30 questionnaires through internet survey, and then you can decide which one was better, as per everything, as per your budget, as per the cost, as per the answers you are getting, and you can decide then which one to go with. This is why we call that practice is the best of all instructors. In case of pre-testing, you are actually doing the practice of all 3 kind of surveys, and you can decide which one was the best one. Let us go with some true false. Interactive survey approaches are those that allow spontaneous two-way interaction between the interviewer and respondent. It's true. Second is, one of the most important advantage of personal interviews is the opportunity for feedback. Yes, it's true. Third, the personal interview is especially useful for obtaining unstructured information. Yes, it is 100% true, and we discussed it in features. Fourth is, the interaction between an interviewer and a respondent decreases the chances that the respondent will answer all of the survey questions over what would be likely to occur in a mail survey. No, this is actually opposite. So it is a false. The presence of an interviewer typically decreases the response rate over what typically happens in a mail survey. Is it? No, it increases the response rate. So it is false. Personal interviews are typically less costly per respondent than telephone surveys. No, these require more cost. So again, it is false. Some self-assessment questions. Number 1, discuss the objectives of conducting surveys. Number 2, discuss all the medias available for conducting surveys. 3, explain how response rates are determined for surveys and discuss ways to increase response rates. That's it. Thank you.